And hello, everybody. Welcome to the Weekday Warriors of Wrestling for Monday, March 6th, 2023. I'm Eric Clancy, joined as always by Patrick Kelly. We're happy to be here today. We are going to be talking post-Revolution show here that happened last night. I'm sure more things will happen as we progress. Apparently, Vince has been spotted in Boston tonight for Raw, so that'll be fun. But Revolution was last night. Patrick, overall thoughts on the show before we kind of get into the granular details.
Being completely honest here, I was not a huge fan of AEW's programming heading into the show. I thought there were a lot of things that they did in the build-up that left a lot to be desired and left the card feeling kind of flat. The show itself, though, overall, very good. I thought at least the big matches, delivered tenfold and above and beyond what I would have ever expected. That main event was killer.
Yeah. I thought the show was overall very good. I thought most matches delivered. In fact, I'm looking through here. I'm trying to see which ones didn't, and I see one. So
I've got one that I wasn't a huge fan of.
Yeah. We'll talk through that. All right, so let's get into it. So we had Ricky Starks and Jericho opening the show. Second year in a row, Jericho has opened Revolution. He did it with Kingston last year in a phenomenal match, which was like that streak, that 2 pay-per-view streak for Kingston where he like stole the show. It was like him and Punk and him and Jericho. They had a good match. It wasn't as good as Kingston and Jericho, but it was a good match. Starks won, and what's his name? Sammy Guevara like jogged down to the ring, but then he got taken out by Action Andretti, and Starks hit the I believe the Rochambeau for the pinfall.
After blocking the highlight of the match when he blocked the Judas effect, which looked awesome, and it was one of those cool like star maker moments for Stark. So I thought this all came off rather well. My biggest issue with it was the whole stipulation of the match was that Appreciation Society is banned from ringside, and Sammy came out anyway, which the whole stip completely pointless to me. But other than that, I thought the match came off really well.
100%. So I was thinking about that, and I'm like, I remember when people were saying like early on with like Cody, they're like, when they're like, oh, Cody can't he can never challenge for the title because they won't break that stip. And like, people would be like, well, what if he just turned heel and like did it anyway, and like and they're like, oh no, because then the heat would be on the company. But then like this fucking thing happens and they're like, this is the whole stipulations, they can't be there. But then they just come in just because somebody stopped Sammy doesn't mean like he wasn't just going to do it anyway. So like the intention was there. So I think that's like, I think it shows you kind of what a different place AEW is from like 3.5, 4 years ago. I mean, I like the match, but I just like, I don't know, certain things like that, like the mindset, like I'm just like, all right, so next we had Jungle Boy, Jack Perry, and Christian Cage. Jungle Boy came out looking fantastic. I liked the look. He had the jeans on, the boots. Christian Cage came out wearing a turtleneck. That was fun. And it was a final burial match for some reason. So if you just watch this match, you'd be like, this was a good match. It was like full of these guys that hated each other, that wanted to bury the other one, and it was good. It was a good match. But holy shit, why did this match have to be a burial, a casket match? And also, it wasn't a casket match. It was like a half buried alive, half casket match thing because they had a cat.
It was like a bunch of different things going on.
Well, they had that casket, and instead of like, in WWE, they just like have a casket there. And this had like a casket with dirt around it. And it's like, okay, why is the casket just like in a real casket? They would lower it into a grave. Here, there's not really a grave. I mean, there kind of is, but it's not really. It was just funny. But Perry goes over as he should. I fault Tony Khan for a lot of things. I'm not going to fault him for Christian Cage randomly becoming injured in September and unable to like have their final match. So like what else are you going to do? I mean, Jungle Boy goes over Luchasaurus, he goes over Christian. Um, I thought it was good, and I thought it was a good next step for Jungle Boy. And they're like, they're moving him along slowly, but they're moving him along at the pace that like he dictates. Like he's still needs to work on his promos. They're getting better. Still, like his he can do a few things better, but like he's coming along. So yeah, I thought the match was good.
Yeah, this match was a microcosm of basically the entire pay-per-view, where the lead into it wasn't that great, but then come bell time, they over-delivered. And this is one of those cases where, the gimmick match, I think they probably undersold themselves. They could have created some intrigue with this match. What is a final burial match? And, normally whenever WWE does a gimmick, we either know all the rules beforehand, so to kind of create excitement of what we're going to see, or they don't tell us anything and they keep it a surprise, kind of like how they handled the first Buried Alive match all those years ago. Here, it was just kind of like they just called it a final burial match and just assumed that we would care. And it just felt very underpromoted. On a show that also had a few other gimmick matches, like the Iron Man match and the Texas Deathmatch and all sorts of things like that. But they succeeded anyway. I thought the match came off really well. And one of the major talking points coming out of the show is that all of the AEW originals went over the WWE, the former WWE guys. And that was a recurring theme throughout the show. So
that's a good point.
Yeah,
It's like it's the reverse fully loaded 2000.
One of my favorite pay-per-views in WWE history, by the way. But yeah, it was good to see. It's like they're actually showing faith in some of these people. Now, some of the guys they push.
Well, no, that's not fair because House of Black went over the Elite.
Would they? Oh, that's true. Yeah. See, I think of them as AEW guys because the whole window dressing is all like completely different.
Well, you can't just change it just because it doesn't fit your narrative, Patrick. But I understand your point. Most of the AEW guys went over the WWE guys.
Right. And yeah, but my point was some of the guys that they try to push, and we mentioned Action Andretti already, and for a while they seemed to be high on Dante Martin, and Daniel Garcia dominated storylines for a couple of months, it seems, and I just don't see it in those guys. And Wheeler Yuta is another great example. I just don't see it in him outside of being a great athlete. But then you've got guys like Ricky Starks and Jungle Boy and Hangman and a few other guys that have a little bit more sizzle on the steak, and those are guys worth investing in. And those guys, for the most part, went over, so that was good to see.
Yeah. Next we had the Trios Championship, and two great things happened with this. One, it was a really good match, as most House of Black Trios matches are. Like, I was live in Vegas for when they did House of Black and Death Triangle, which was like kind of thrown together. I think it had like a week or two of build or something, but the match itself was awesome. And they beat the Elite, and it was a very good match. The Kenny and Malachi stuff was very good. So the match was good. Julia Hart looked ridiculously hot. And like the other positive thing is that the fucking trios titles are off the Elite now, so we can stop having them do whatever they were doing and get them into doing something interesting. It's amazing to me that you have the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega, and you're like, let's just have them wrestle and do nothing else and cut these weird segments backstage, and that's it. And like, there's no like real storyline going on. It's just like, these are the next people that want to fight them. And it's just, yeah, it's been, I think, a huge, since All Out and since everything that happened, the Elite, I think, have been massively misused. I think there's all sorts of stories to tell that they didn't tell. There was Kenny seeing if he still got it at a singles competitor after he lost to Hangman. That was a thing that they never did. Obviously, they fucked up the Elite versus Undisputed storyline because they waited forever, and then everybody got injured and released and whatever. There's the reconciliation of the Elite, where maybe Hangman comes back to the Elite to help them against some other force. I don't know. Do something. But right now, what they're doing with the Elite is not working.
Absolutely agreed. I'll say this about the match. I was not the biggest fan of it. It got a little too spot festy for me, and I kind of zoned out after a while, but I was very happy to see the title change. It was a nice surprise. I fully expected the Elite to retain here, but I think now that the Trios belts are off of them, and I know that the Trios belts were basically created solely for the Elite and nobody else, but get those belts off of them, get them doing something more substantial, and I think the House of Black is a more I think they can do better with the trios title belts and help maybe elevate them. Whereas for the Elite, they were kind of like an anchor weighing them down. So I think this was a good decision all around.
I also I said this last show. I don't think there's an American company that has done trios titles well. Um, I mean, I guess if you count Lucha Underground, they do, but they're really a Lucha title, and it works well in Lucha promotions. I haven't seen it done well in American promotions, but
well, it
all right,
hurts when you have a set of regular two-man tag titles floating around on the show too. So it's like you've got two tag divisions roaming around, and it's extra bodies that you have to account for in those matches. It becomes a little convoluted.
Yeah. Up next, we have the three-way match between Jamie Hayter, Saraya, and Ruby Soho. Now, I don't think the match itself was amazing or anything, but I thought it was good, and I thought the finish was very good because they put another wrinkle into this storyline. They add Ruby Soho. I was thinking when she helped Hayter and was like, "Oh, I'm gonna fight Saraya and Tony Storm." I'm like, "Oh, that's dumb. That's the least interesting thing to do with this because Ruby's kind of I mean, she's not kind of she's not one of the homegrown stars, and if we remember on that episode of Rampage that I was at, when the entire crowd booed the shit out of her against Chris Statlander when she was supposed to be the face, and Ruby, I like incorporating that into her character and saying well, I don't need these people, So also she's hated Britt Baker and Jamie Hayter forever, so I don't know why she would just stop. So I thought that turn at the end made a lot of sense. I thought it added some a new dimension to the story, and I like the idea of that NWO type thing, who's going to be next. That's cool.
Yeah, and they've had a hard time getting the storyline off the ground. Parts of it on TV haven't come off very well, but I think the Ruby heel turn will help in that regard. At least I hope so. They may have to explain why didn't she just double team Jamie Hayter with Saraya when the bell rang, and one of them just wins the title. Why did she wait until after the match to turn and do all that stuff? But they can just do a throwaway line where she just you know what, I took the loss and I got pissed off, and that was the straw that broke the camel's back. But other than that, I think for a match that I wasn't overly invested in, I thought it came off fine.
Yeah. All right, up next is the Texas Deathmatch, Hangman Adam Page and Jon Moxley. For me, this was the match of the night. I thought it was the most emotionally charged of the matches. I thought it was brutal and rough and exactly what this feud promised and exactly what the story was building to with all these matches. I thought the right guy went over. Jon Moxley made him look like $1 million. I thought it was, it was just great, violent, gritty pro wrestling. For some reason, I always thought a Texas Deathmatch was pin and then they can't do a 10 count. Am I making that up, or was that how it once was?
No, you're correct. That's what the rules were. I don't know why they changed it for this.
This is just a last man standing match, also with submissions.
Pretty much, yeah.
So I thought there were so many interesting spots, like the brick stuff. The fucking fork was sick. It was, it was good. It was just two guys, and it really makes you think, is Hangman going to be the next challenger for MJF? I think the next two big ones for MJF are probably Cole and Hangman, and I don't know what order they're going to do. I would assume because Hangman just won, he's probably next up, and then maybe Cole starts up when he starts wrestling again in a few weeks.
I would agree. I think that would be the way to go. But I'm with you. I thought this match was awesome. It knocked my socks off. And once it happened, I was like, well, this show's over. I don't know if anything can follow that. But then we'll talk about the main event in a little bit. But that match was unbelievably violent. Some of the reviews I'm seeing online, a lot of people didn't like it because they thought it was too violent. And, how things have changed, because I remember back in the late 90s, any hardcore match got like rave reviews. So it's just funny to see how that overall mindset has changed.
No, you get all the prudes now, and they're all like, "That was unsafe," and that was. It's just like Jesus Christ. You get these pearl clutchers. Anyway, go ahead. Sorry.
No, you're absolutely right. But if you love good blood and guts hardcore wrestling, this is about as good as it gets. I thought it was amazing.
Following up that, we had the match that we're probably both going to say was our disappointment of the show, and it was Wardlow and Samoa Joe for the TNT Championship. I would not have put the TNT title back on Wardlow. I think once you got it off of him, like just have him and Samoa Joe without anything. Keep it on Darby. I thought that would have been the way to go, because I think if you're going to give a Wardlow a title, he needs to be at the world title level. Mm-hmm. But this match needed to be one thing, and Tony Khan didn't book it because Tony Khan doesn't book things like this. It needed to be like a 3-second squash match. Like Wardlow needed to come in, crush Joe, powerbomb him, and that was it. And like that would be the shock. That does two things. First of all, you're not going to get a great match out of these guys. And even if you're not going to get a great match out of these guys right after the Texas Death Match. It's the death spot. We all know it is. So what do? The same thing you do after CM Punk and Darby Allin and All Out. You put Big Show and QT Marshall. You put something completely different. In this case, like he comes out, he kills it. It like gives you a chance to catch your breath. It gives the crowd a chance to like reset and everything. But of course, it's like, no, it's got to be a competitive match. So it's 10 minutes and 40 seconds of this. And it wasn't very good. No one really liked it, it seems. And Wardlow goes over, but he wasn't like super over in the win. And now either he's going to lose to Hobbs, which would be stupid, or Hobbs is going to lose to him, which is stupid. So like, I kind of don't know why they did any of this. The TNT title has been so maligned for a while, but also I really don't need Samoa Joe in featured spots on pay-per-views in 2023, but here we are. So yeah, that was my thoughts on this match.
Yeah, you pretty much hit the nail on the head. And now a good way to get out of the Hobbs Wardlow situation is to do a double DQ and set up a rematch down the road, but they don't like DQs in AEW, so there you go. But this match, like you said, it's a death spot coming out of the Texas Death Match. I knew it was a death spot the second they sent them out there. It's like, well, no one's going to care about this because of what we just saw. And you talk about like pacing together and putting together a pay-per-view, and I think back to my childhood, and it's like, where's the Hacksaw Jim Duggan match? Where it's like they always put Hacksaw out there in a total, like, they just do a big match or a big angle. It's like, then afterwards, how do you follow that up? The crowd needs to get their breath back. So just send Hacksaw out there. He'll keep them happy. And they can do a quick, like, 3-4 minute deal where Hacksaw gets a pop, and that's it. And that's, lets us kind of get ready to build up towards the next big match, which would be like the main event or something like that. And that's not what anybody does anymore, unfortunately, in AEW especially. And this match, the biggest disappointment for me is that Wardlow's been chasing Joe for months and months and months. And it's like Wardlow's finisher is that powerbomb symphony. You want to see him just slam heels into the mat repeatedly. That's his whole thing. When he did it to MJF, it was great. But here's like, oh, can he do it to big fat Samoa Joe? That would be pretty cool to see. And he didn't do it. And it's just kind of like, oh, he won by choking him out. He stole Joe's move. And I'm like, well, I don't want to see that. I want to see him powerbomb the fat fuck. That's what I'm here for. And again, it's one of those things that could have been so simple and so easy, and they just overcomplicate it because every match needs to be competitive.
That'd be like if Hogan like beat Andre with the clothesline. You're like, I don't care about that. Like, yeah, exactly. I want to see him slam him.
Exactly. And I don't know why the finish was the way that it was, but I'm also with you. Samoa Joe in 2023 holds no intrigue for me. I just don't. His matches with Darby were good, but that's also because Darby's a bump machine. But other than that, Joe's he's not what he was back in the mid 2000s. I'm sorry.
Everybody has good matches with Darby. That's like, that's not that's not like a badge of honor. All right. Next up, we had the 4-way for the tag titles. And and it was the Guns, the Acclaimed, Jay Lethal, and a man you did not think you'd see on a pay-per-view in 2023, Jeff Jarrett, against Orange Cassidy and Danhausen. So, by the way, this match was fine. It was like good sports entertainment match.
This is the match that could come after the Texas Death Match.
Yeah, you could have done it here. I mean, they benefited from the spot they were in. They're like, that was the best that match I think would have gone. So there was that. So two things here. I'm one of the few people who like had no issue with the Guns winning the tag title. So many people were like, ugh, but I'm like, I don't know. They're good heels. They're like people are like proud and powerful never won it, but they did. I'm like, it's timing. Like, there were tag teams that needed to have it back then. Like, it's just timing. It really is. However, the Acclaimed are still so freaking over and such big stars, and they got I don't, was it the biggest pop of the night? I feel like the Acclaimed might have got the biggest pop of the night.
They might have. They are so insanely over. It's ridiculous.
So you really got to be careful with that, because like I don't know. You don't want to blow that, because you can really I don't, the act is still red hot. So I don't know. You don't want to just shuffle them off and not be involved anymore. I understand, FTR came out after. FTR and the Guns makes a lot of sense, but you don't want to forget about the Acclaimed. I think that would be a huge mistake. I think I think the Acclaimed FTR for the titles could be like a big feud down the road. So yeah. I'm just I don't have an issue with Guns as champion, but I also am like, don't squander the Acclaimed.
Sure, and you can have the Acclaimed involved. I mean, what do we talk about with keeping a division stacked, like having feuds that don't involve the titles? And I think the Acclaim, have them do a little go around with Jarrett and Jay for a while. I think you could do some really good stuff with that, especially since Jeff is such a hateable character anyway. I think working off of him would be great for them.
There's so much material for casters raps with Jeff. It's like so much available.
Yeah, exactly. Do that while FTR feuds with the Guns, and then once the Acclaim goes over Jeff and Jay Lethal, then you can do FTR and the Acclaim later in the year, possibly around All Out. So there's a lot of different ways they can go, and you don't want the Acclaim to get lost in the shuffle, but I don't think they're at that point yet.
Absolutely. So finally, we had the main event. We had MJF, we had Bryan Danielson in the Iron Man match. I'll let you go first. You seem to be extremely enthusiastic, so I want to hear what you loved about it, and yeah, go on.
Well, let me start off by saying I am not the biggest fan of 1 hour matches. I think it's a lot to expect someone to hold, to be paying attention to one match for that long. I think it's a huge ask for an audience, and I'm trying to think of the good 1 hour matches, like Bret and Shawn, Triple H and Rock, some of the Punk Joe matches, Omega and Okada, Flair and Steamboat, but they're not Ring of Honor did a lot of other ones that didn't do it for me, and Japan's done a lot of them that didn't really do it for me. The NWA used to do a bunch of 1 hour matches that I was like, you could have cut that in half. We all probably would have been fine, but to hold my attention for the entirety of that hour and then past that, because they went to overtime, very hard to do, but I thought they pulled it off. And it's really, it was just, I thought the entire match was a masterclass of just heel versus face, where Bryan Danielson is the better wrestler, but MJF is this crafty, devious snake in the grass that knows how to use the rules to his advantage and keep an advantage that way. And then as the match progressed, it got increasingly more violent and increasingly more brutal. And it just, very well put together, very well structured match. Some people are saying, I've seen this comment thrown around, it's the greatest Iron Man match of all time. I don't know if I'd go that far with it, but it was, I'll say this, best pay-per-view main event that AEW's ever done. And that's,
Wow.
Yeah, I'll go that far, because I'm trying to think what other main events have they done that are as good as this one, and none of them come to mind, at least not right now. And there was something else I was going to say, and it's kind of slipping. But the pacing of the pay-per-view, I was really worried about this match, because a common complaint that people have about AEW pay-per-views, I've said it, you've said it, is that their shows are too long. And this one was no exception. It was, the typical 4 hours, maybe a little shy of 4 hours with a 1 hour pre-show. And I was worried about how this match was going to come off. It's like, God, they're going to stick a 1 hour match at the end of a show that's going to feel like an eternity. This is not going to go well. And I don't know what it was. Maybe it was because they felt like they needed to leave as much time as possible for the main event. But the pre-main event portion of the show felt better paced than usual and seemed to go by a lot quicker. So by the time I got to the main event, I wasn't exhausted yet. I don't know if anybody else feels that way, but this maybe it was because working around that hour-long match improved the pacing a little bit. I'm not sure, but I was not exhausted by the time I got to this match, which is something I was worried about, which is good. And I thought the match overall came off very, very well, with maybe a few minor missteps here and there. But MJF went over, which I expected, and I think most people did. But it was a great win for him and a great showcase for his abilities.
So I'll disagree with you on a few things. So I don't, in my opinion, this is not the greatest AEW main event of all time. I would put Hangman and Kenny above it. I also really liked Moxley and Jericho at Revolution 2020.
Both very
yeah. Those are two of my favorites. However, I will say this because I was like looking it up. And I was like, oh, greatest Iron match ever. That's ridiculous. Then I looked them all up and I'm like, oh, there's not like a ton of good ones. And I'm obviously biased towards the Shawn and Brett one. I know a lot of people think that's overrated and the WWE has like pushed that one too much as like a legendary match, but I like that one a lot. But looking at the rest of them, I'm like, I mean, Triple H and Rock is really good. But then like I didn't care for Brock and Kurt. Like
Cena and Orton had one that I thought was trash.
Yeah, that wasn't good. And you look through it and you're like, yeah, I guess maybe it is, but that's like also an attack on the history of Iron Man matches. So I thought this match was really good. I do not think it was as great as you thought it was. I think you mentioned like to be able to hold your attention for that full amount of time is super impressive. They didn't hold my attention for the full amount of time. Like I would say the first half for me was, I don't want to say a slog, but I'm just like, like up until the first pinfall, I think it was like kind of like, eh. And that said, the final 10 minutes and the final 15 minutes and the final 10 minutes were fantastic. The 5 minutes left, beating each other back and like getting like new wind. I don't know, did you notice that they did the recreation like camera shot of Brett and Shawn?
No, I didn't catch that.
Yeah, they have like when he's got him in the single leg, they've got like shots on Brian, and it's like a similar camera angle to when they show Brett with the sharpshooter and stuff. So and of course the finish was the same. Like not the finish like totally the same, but that thing that the guy in the hold hung on. So yeah, no, I thought it was really good. I mean, the right guy obviously won. I would have liked MJF to not have to use the thing. It's not like the end of the world. It's fine. I just would have liked him to win. I mean, just beat him, and you can make the case that he did, but yeah. But so I'm not like, I didn't dislike the match or anything. I liked it. I thought it was a really, really good match. Yeah, I would just, if you were to ask me what I would rather do, watch Hangman and Moxley in the Texas Death or watch this, I would pick the Moxley Page match.
Sure, there's a lot of good things about Omega and Hangman. I'm not trying to put that down. It also.
Oh no! I'm sorry. I said Hangman and Moxley from the show.
Oh, Hangman and Moxley from the show. Well, again, yeah. And the thing, I'll put this up there in the pay-per-view's favor. I'll be very surprised if these aren't two of the top 10 best matches of the year come the end of 2023. Both matches were amazing. And how often do you get a card with two of the best matches of the year on it?
I think it reminds me a lot of, and it's funny because Bryan Danielson was a part of this, SummerSlam 2013 when you had the Punk Brock match and the Cena Daniel match.
And I think we were flipped on that one too. I think I like Punk Brock more and you like Cena Danielson more.
Yeah. I mean, I like both of those matches a lot.
Yeah,
So
both were outstanding. So it's like there's no wrong answer there. Both are great.
yeah. I liked the yeah. I mean, it was like what flip a coin, right? So but yeah, no, so it was a good show. I mean, so I don't think this show is going to do anything to them as far as like momentum because like I don't think AEW is like unable to put on good shows or anything like that. I think they need a hot storyline, and I don't think they have that right now. So I think coming out of this, that's what they need to find. Not like more good matches or good feuds because they do have those, but a storyline that really captures people's imaginations.
Yeah, that again, we talked about it last episode. That is severely lacking, and hopefully that the Elite's no longer the trios champion. That can open the door up to do something. So we'll see. We'll find out on Dynamite this week.
Yeah, why don't we go into some Q&A? We got some mailbag stuff.
Yes, we do. I was gonna bring these up last in my mind,
You
but here we go. Okay, from Philip, what do you guys think of the upcoming A24 film, The Iron Claw, detailing the life and tragedy of Von Erichs, with MJF set to play a role?
I think it's got a really good cast. I was looking at it the other day because they've got Zach Efron as is it Kevin? Yeah. Jeremy Allen White from The Bear is in it. Lily James is in it. Like, yeah, so like um I think I don't know, it's got a really good cast, so I'm excited.
Yeah, I think it's, you don't usually get, I mean, yeah, there's the wrestler and things like that, but how often do we get like really good wrestling based movies? It's not very often. In
Not
Von,
often.
yeah, the Von Erich family, it's quite the tragedy. So if you make a good movie about that, it could be quite the tearjerker. So I'm interested in seeing it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, from Negaduck, we get questions from Darkwing Duck villains here. What is your favorite WrestleMania venue of all time?
I'm assuming he means like not going to, but just like which was the best venue.
Yeah, like which one was the best one to look at watching the shows?
This is difficult. I'm gonna have to
Well, it's not that goddamn Citrus Bowl, I'll tell you that.
yeah. What a piece of shit that thing was.
I can give mine.
All right, go ahead, do yours, and
Sure. My number one would be Safeco Field from WrestleMania 19. I just love the look of that show. It's probably, even today, my favorite looking WrestleMania. I thought the venue and the set all looked terrific. If I have to do a number two, I would say Madison Square Garden, largely for its historical significance. It's kind of like, the Madison Square Garden kind of is to WWE what Lambeau Field is to the NFL. It's like, yeah, it's a smaller venue, but there's just something old timey and magical about it that gives it an extra flavor whenever they're there.
Okay, I know which ones I want. I'm gonna give you top three, and then I'm gonna throw a fourth in there. And these three are in a fucking row. Can you believe that?
Oh, go for it. I can't wait to hear this.
All right. So I really like the Hoosier Dome
Mm-hmm.
at 8. Um it's so and it's funny because it's such a good trick. Because as a kid, I'm like, look how many people went there, despite the fact like 92 is like a terrible year, and like you could get in for like $6 to that WrestleMania. But it looked so cool. And it's also like one of the only ones that's like in like I mean, I guess it's by Chicago, but it's like they don't do a lot in like the Midwest. Um it seems like so I just I liked the look of it a lot. It was big, it seemed big, it seemed I don't know, it was nice. I like that one. The one after that is the one after that. I'm gonna say Caesar's Palace for WrestleMania 9. I know people hate the show. I'm not a huge fan of the show myself. But the fact that it was out totally outside, which like I mean the Hoosier Dome was like you could see the light, but it was still inside. This was outside, and to me that was so different. To me as like a whatever age kid. I mean I think I saw it later, so I don't think I saw it when it actually happened. But I was still a kid when I saw it. and that was just so cool because wrestling wasn't outside, it was inside. So that was like, I don't know, just different. It caught my imagination there. Undertaker coming out with like the vulture was very cool, so I really liked how that looked. And I'm going to say Madison Square Garden as well, but not just any Madison Square Garden. I'm going to say 1994 Madison Square Garden. I love the look, I love the WrestleMania 10 look.
Yep.
um uh yeah, it was great. And what you had at that Madison Square Garden that you did not have 10 years later is the fucking nice entrance that's like in the center of the ring, you know?
Mm-hmm. And I've heard Bruce Pritchard talk about it, and they hated filming in Madison Square Garden because of the way it's shaped and everything. But I always saw it coming out in the midway, just gave it a different look, and I thought it looked cool. Like it looked
It
cool when
looked big time.
yeah, it looked cool when they did it at SummerSlam '98 too. And it's like I don't know why they were so hesitant to do it again because I always thought it
Yeah.
looked good.
So I will I'll do that, and I will also do sorry, for my runner up, I'll have I'll put whatchamacallit, Safeco Field as well.
Okay. All right. Our next question is coming from Kama123. Must be a Dragon Ball Z fan. What is your favorite annual WCW pay-per-view event? So I take that question as what was your favorite event on the calendar every year?
Yeah, like if you want to like Halloween Havoc or Fall Brawl or something like that.
Right, right.
I think I'll do Fall Brawl. I think I'll do War Games. That always seemed like such a WCW thing, and I mean that in a positive. Like it seemed like a special thing that only they did, that had connections to like the NWA. I think like changing the format in whatchamacallit, 1998 was dumb. I thought getting rid of it in 99 was even dumber. So yeah, I'll go Fall Brawl War Games.
Very good answer. That was one of my favorites too. But my number one was Halloween Havoc. And yes, they did stupid crap on Halloween Havoc, like the Chamber of Horrors and the Hogan giant
Spin the
Yeti,
wheel, make the deal.
that type of stuff. But I loved the whole concept of Halloween Havoc because it was a Halloween themed pay per view. And I was a nutty kid that liked monster movies and things like that. So it was just cool to me. It's like, oh my God, there's a wrestling pay per view that's all about Halloween. That's great.
I
And
like I like that you said you were a nutty kid who wants monster movies, because no kids watch monster movies.
well, when I was growing up, not a lot of kids did. Like trying to get them into Universal or things like that, it was kind of hard. It was like pulling teeth. Like they were in black and white. We don't watch that.
How
And
many?
last question from Gabe. What is the greatest wrestler movie cameo of all time?
Um. All right, I have one. You go first, though.
Oh God, I've got so many. I'm gonna say this one because it's an oddball one, but Pee-wee's Big Adventure. Professor Toru Tanaka was the guy that was he was like the butler or something for Francis and was guarding him while he was in the quote unquote bath when he was really in a gigantic indoor swimming pool. And that whole scene with Pee Wee was just super funny to me. And so when I found out later that that guy was a wrestler and he was tag team partners with Mr. Fuji, that made the scene even funnier to me. So it's a weird one, but yeah, that would be my pick.
It's not even the best Teru Tanaka cameo. You got to go with Running Man for that. Um, I am going to go with Chris Jericho in MacGruber, because
I've
number
never
one,
seen that movie.
it's fantastic. If you like sophomoric silly humor, it's very good. Um, Jericho plays a mercenary, um, which here I will do. If you've never seen it, so I will do the lines for you. And Jericho improv'd a lot of this, and Will Forte just went with it. And apparently John Mayer loves the movie, and he goes up to Chris Jericho often and just quotes it to him.
Fantastic.
Let me see. I want to get it correct. So, all right, here we go. So so I think like the last three lines here are improv, but yeah, it goes. MacGruber says, looks like you're keeping your body pretty tight. And then Jericho says, you're looking pretty good yourself. And McGruber says, well, every day's a workout when you got to carry a 20-pound python in your jeans. And then Jericho says, you and your dick comments. And McGruber says, it's fun to say them. And Jericho says, it's fun to hear them. And then McGruber says, that's why I say them. And then Jericho says, and that's why I listen. It's pretty great.
Yeah.
And then they're all killed in an accidental bomb that goes off in their car. But it's very good. So yeah, I'll go with Jericho there, and of course, if I have to do the Toru Tanaka, I'll go Running Man. But
also great. But
yeah.
I feel like Jesse Ventura was the star wrestler in that one.
That's not what the question was, Patrick. It was, what's your favorite wrestler cameo?
Oh, there you go. There you go.
Yeah, see.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Thanks for your questions. Send them in again. We'll try to get them on the next show. We'll do some WrestleMania previews coming up, like we have done for many, 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 many years. But I want to thank you guys for listening. Always appreciate it. Give us a like, comment, all that bullshit. I'm Eric Clancy alongside Patrick Kelly, and we are
Signing off.